Welcome into the Scoop, part of the Inside Carolina Podcast Network. This is the number one UNC football recruiting podcast. I'm your host, Ross Martin, joined by Don Callahan. This podcast is brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. Right on Franklin Street and online. Get all your UNC gear, T-shirts, sweatshirts, shorts, stickers, anything you need at Johnny T-Shirt. And for Inside Carolina subscribers, you can get 10% off with your promo code. So check out Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, the local one-stop shop for everything UNC related. The Scoop is next. All right, welcome into the Scoop. As I said, the number one UNC football recruiting podcast. I'm your host, Ross Martin, joined by Don Callahan. Guys, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the Inside Carolina Podcast Network. As always, check out Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. We're back on schedule here every other week. Don, what's going on, buddy?
Not too much. We're recording on signing day.
Yeah.
It's weird because we don't have any real signing day obligations. My schedule for the most part is very similar to any other Wednesday. And it's just such a weird sort of deal. You know how it is. You remember the old signing days where it was like you wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, you have a bunch of things you need to get done throughout the day and all of that. So it's been a little bit different for me today. What about you? What's going on with Ross?
Yeah. So how many years has it been December signing day? Do you know?
That's a good question. Was it
At least three.
Yeah, I think we're pushing
3 or 4.
Yeah,
but
or maybe even 5.
Probably. Yeah, and obviously Mack Brown likes to get his guys locked in and signed, and so for the last couple of years, we haven't had much to do in February in terms of recruiting.
Well, a lot of schools try to do that. It's just really it's a couple schools that maybe have a couple of holes that still need to be filled, or if you're going through a coaching transition, they need to basically fill the class out because they lost everybody. But Mack dealt with this in his first class too, which I think was the second, or maybe it's the first one.
Yeah, I don't know. And then I've seen like Virginia signing a lot of people today. Probably Duke, some of the guys, probably Miami. I just haven't been following that as much, but UNC's locked in with the number 9 recruiting class. I don't know if that's going to change or not, but we're sitting here around 11:15 on Wednesday. And today, the show, as we previewed last time we did the Scoop, is going to be a preview of UNC's top 2023 targets. These are names that I don't really know as well. Don, of course, knows them, but this is for the listener, for the UNC football recruiting fan. We're going to go through the 20 top realistic targets for UNC, go through everyone briefly.
Names to know.
Get familiar with the names, the guys we'll be talking about for the next calendar year. The kind of the top UNC targets for the 2023 class. That's what to expect from this podcast. Before we do that, Don, as we record this, and as you listen to this, let's say that as you listen to this, UNC has landed a commitment from a transfer commitment, a grad transfer commitment in the form of Spencer Rolland out of Harvard, an offensive lineman listed as 6'6", 285, can play guard, can play tackle. Don, you've been tracking this. What's the news here? What can you tell us about Spencer Rolland, who is expected to join UNC in the summer after he finishes his academic career at Harvard?
Yeah, just a quick background. He played football at Harvard, which overlapped 3 seasons, but one of those seasons was canceled because of COVID. Was a starter this past season, made all Ivy League. He made his intentions known during the fall that he was planning on transferring from Harvard following this past season. Initially committed to Penn State. He withdrew that commitment. I think it was like in early December. Shortly after that, he started hearing from North Carolina, specifically Stacey Sherrills, UNC's offensive line coach. Sherrills went by and did a contact visit with him. They talked. They set up an official visit for the first weekend following the holiday dead period. Took that official visit. Then also took an official visit to Arizona State this past weekend. And then I think he was basically, from what I gather, basically sold on North Carolina after the official, but wanted to honor that commitment that he made to take the official to Arizona State and did that. And now here we are. He's committed to North Carolina, intends on transferring in the summer to UNC because he's, as you mentioned, he still has to graduate from Harvard in May.
Yeah, and he's from Minnesota, and like Don said, played at Harvard. He's versatile, so he can play offensive tackle and guard, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to just throw him out there as an offensive lineman. He played right tackle mostly for Harvard. UNC needs more help in the interior, so maybe they try to bulk him up, move him to guard. So I think just labeling him as an offensive lineman is probably the safest bet.
Okay. And I mean, it's clearly a position of need. They went out and got Corey Gaynor, an experienced offensive center there to provide depth there with Brian Anderson and Quarion Johnson. And after losing Marcus McKeithen, Joshua Zudu, and Jordan Tucker to the NFL draft, or just to leaving UNC, they bring in another experienced offensive lineman who could be ready to start. I don't know how good he is, but at least has played a lot at the college level, not ACC level, but Harvard, probably pretty smart, experience. He's going to at least provide another bot.
He has I think it's 3.85 GPA, majoring in, I think it was
mechanical engineering.
Yes. So yeah, I would say he's pretty intelligent.
Yeah, I think once you get into Harvard, it's kind of easy, but getting into Harvard is hard. Did you apply to any Ivy League schools?
I did not, but they wanted me. I did. So I did take a visit to Penn, just because the way, there's a bunch of colleges in downtown Philadelphia, and I visited a couple of them, Drexel, and I can't remember what the other one was, but and Penn is just kind of right down the street. So we did do a little bit of a tour of Penn, realized that they probably weren't going to want me.
I couldn't imagine you at an Ivy League. But yeah, depth, smart guy, experience. So the offensive line is going to be a big concern, I believe, entering spring and entering fall. They're getting some more bodies in there, which is good. Because I don't know who's going to start. William Barnes might start. Ed Montilus is going to start. Maybe Corey Gaynor, Stephen Richards. But after that, you don't know. And I don't know how good you feel with Barnes and Montilus there. All right, so a little news there for you. Spencer Rolland commits to UNC as a transfer out of Harvard. Okay, Don, let's get into our top 20 UNC targets for the 2023 class. You put this list together for me to go through. A lot of these names I don't know, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to preview each one. I'm going to read their profile, and you're going to provide a sentence or two about them, maybe about their game a little bit, and then a sentence or two about their recruitment. And then we'll move on. We're going to kind of roll through these. Stay with us. We'll try to keep it fresh, and hopefully not get too distracted and off the schedule here. Okay.
All right.
Ready?
Sounds great. I am ready.
Okay. Great. All right. Sullivan. These are in alphabetical order. That's important to note. Don made a point to say that, right?
Yes, and this is names to know. I don't want anyone to take anything more out of the 20 that I chose or the order of the 20, other than the fact that we need to know these names, or you need to know these names.
Yeah, and we'll close with the listeners' top 5 with their top 5 targets for the 2023 class. All right, let's get into it. Sullivan Absher, offensive lineman, 6'7", 275 from Belmont, North Carolina.
Yeah, so this is a guy who, as you mentioned, tall kid. He plays in a wing T offense, so his recruitment was a little bit slowed by that. Camped at North Carolina during in June. Grew up a huge UNC fan. At this point, I mean, he has a bunch of offers now. Visited Notre Dame over the weekend. It's difficult for me to see him going anywhere too far away. Huge UNC fan. I don't think a commitment is imminent, but I think that UNC is in the driver's seat in this recruitment. Definitely. Okay. So definitely make sure we know Sullivan Absher.
There you go. And there's 2 crystal ball predictions, one from North Carolina, one from Notre Dame. Notre Dame made by Tom Loy. He is not ranked at this time. All right, next one. Moving right along. Good job on that, Don, on the timing. All right. Marquis Anderson. That's Markee. Offensive tackle, 6'4.5", 305 from Roebuck, South Carolina. He's a 4-star, ranked 178 in the nation.
Yeah, so this is an interesting situation because typically top-ranked players in South Carolina don't end up in North Carolina because there is definitely a pull from the in-state programs, Clemson, South Carolina, and if they don't end up there, it's usually an SEC school. But Marquis has continuously visited North Carolina. Attended the junior day this past weekend. Attended a football game during the season. Also was in for a visit in June. He has visited South Carolina a lot, also, and Clemson wants him really badly. So this is going to be a battle. But I think North Carolina is in a surprisingly positive spot right now for Marquis Anderson.
Yeah, I like his name too. It sounds like Marquis. It's both a Q, but it's with a K. So why do you think UNC's going to beat out Clemson, South Carolina for this guy?
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that typically those sort of linemen, they come up for a courtesy visit and then you don't hear much from them again, other than that they just will include North Carolina in their list. But if we're following the visits, which I always feel like it's not a foolproof sort of philosophy, but it's one of the more telling philosophies that we can follow when it comes to recruiting. And I just think the fact that North Carolina has been able to attract him to campus so much is pretty significant.
Okay, next one, Chris Culver, wide receiver, 6'3", 174, from Maiden, North Carolina. 3-star guy, ranked 422 in the nation, number 55 wide receiver. Donald.
So those who have been, I guess, reading my stuff for a long time, and I think I've mentioned him on the podcast before, know that I'm a huge fan of Chris Culver. He's a little bit in the middle of nowhere. It's outside of Charlotte, but it's probably more like an hour and a half outside of Charlotte at Maiden High School. Maiden has produced some kids, and a lot of them have been underrated. And I think he's the latest one, but he's starting to get some buzz with his offers and everything. Long kid, legit 6'3", 175 pounds. North Carolina was in a great position early on. I think some of the new offers that kind of came through have caused him to kind of take a step back and want to reevaluate everything. But he's definitely a guy that North Carolina has a really good shot with.
Yeah, it seems like a little bit slow, lower ranked kid though that they usually go for, especially wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think he's my guy in this class. I feel like he's underrated. I feel like he should be ranked higher. I think he has a ton of athletic ability. He has legit size. He plays for the Carolina Stars, one of the top 707 programs in the region. And if you go and if you follow Maiden football, he was Maiden football's team this past season. Several games he put the team on his back, had like 5 touchdowns. That's the type of player you want in your program.
All right. Michael Daughtry, safety, 6'1", 180, from Loganville, Georgia. 4-star, 156 in the nation, number 14 safety. I saw you did an article about him recently.
Yes. So Daughtry, the article was on his junior day visit to North Carolina, which he did this past Saturday. So definitely read that to get like a more detailed idea of what's going on with his recruitment. He's a kid from Grayson High School, is a powerhouse in Georgia, produces tons and tons of prospects that go all over the place. So he's always being tested. He too plays for a really big time 707 program, Hustle Inc., which is one of probably 2 of the top 707 programs in Georgia. This past weekend's visit to North Carolina was his second.
Okay.
It's going to be a little bit of a battle with him, but he's close with Caleb Downs and obviously has a good relationship with Dre Bly.
And I noticed that Charlton Warren is his recruiter for Georgia listed. Mm-hmm. So we need to change that. Is Charlton leading his recruitment?
Yeah. I
would imagine so.
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But Dre Bly is involved with that too, just because, he's close friends with Caleb Downs, which is obviously Dre Bly's nephew.
Okay. And nice segue there. The next one, Caleb Downs, safety, 6'1", 185, from Horston, Georgia, Mill Creek High School. It's the highest ranked kid we've talked about so far. 5-star, number 12 in the nation, number 1 safety. I imagine most of our listeners to this podcast know his name, and it's Josh Downs' younger brother.
Yes.
Okay. Floor is yours.
Yeah. So, you don't get much big time than him. I think a lot of UNC fans felt like, okay, this is a lock. UNC is going to get this kid, but yeah. I don't think that's the case. He has made tons of visits elsewhere. Seems to be very interested in going to a blue blood program. But he has also made a bunch of visits to North Carolina. A lot of them go unreported, mostly because he's going to hang out with his brother. And even when he goes to a recruiting event, he doesn't go in with the recruits. He kind of just shows up for certain activities and kind of goes and hangs out with his brother. But obviously, the same reasons that North Carolina was able to score Josh Downs' commitment are going to be the same reasons why North Carolina could score Caleb Downs' recruitment. But like, as I said, I mean, Georgia, Clemson, all these programs are hitting him hard, and he's very interested in those programs also.
Yeah, and it's close there. And, that brothers don't always follow their other brother. That's not always the case. You saw that with Chad Surratt's brother Sage and a bunch of other players.
Well, the thing, too, is the two brothers didn't even go to the same high school. They actually played against each other during Josh's senior year. So, yeah, I mean, they're very close, though. But they're accustomed to not being on the same team.
And by the time Caleb would be in college, Josh may be gone. So it might not even matter.
Yep.
And UNC could sell playing time, I imagine, is kind of what they're looking for. Come in and start immediately, that kind of stuff. All right. We're going to take a quick break, pay some bills with some ads. We'll be right back with 15 more of the must names to know for UNC's 2023 class. All right. We're back. Moving right along. Thanks to those who stuck around for the next portion of this podcast. You're listening to the Scoop Podcast, brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt at johnnytshirt.com. All right, Monroe Freeman, offensive tackle, 6'7", 283, from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, down there by the Charleston area, I believe. High-ranked kid, high 4-star, ranked number 94 in the nation, number 9 offensive tackle. Yeah,
so this is a kid who I think very highly of. I mean, he's highly ranked, can't get too much higher. I mean, he's a top 100 prospect, but I mean, definitely has the size, has the flexibility, has the athleticism. He's a basketball player. His mom's a yoga instructor, which I think has helped with his flexibility. Has visited North Carolina quite a few times, and UNC has left a big impression on him. North Carolina was one of a handful of schools that he seemed really high on during the season. And I think he's spent this offseason, or is trying to spend this offseason, trying to see some others. UNC is in it, but it's going to be a battle. And he's originally from Washington State. Okay. So as far as like proximity to home is not going to matter for him.
Okay. Monroe Freeman. All right. Moving right along. Christian Hamilton, wide receiver, 6 foot, 175, from Harrisburg, North Carolina, Hickory Ridge High School, 132 in the nation, number 23 wide receiver, which makes him a 4-star prospect.
Yeah, so he's another kid that plays for the Carolina Stars, has a ton of, or I shouldn't say a ton, but has some ties to North Carolina. Most notably, his high school coach is Jupiter Wilson, who played at North Carolina. And so, which I don't necessarily think it's going to be a lock, but he has visited North Carolina more than any other school. But he also has branched out a little bit, even has taken some visits to Texas A&M. I think went to Penn State, some other programs. Maybe I don't think he made it to Ohio State, but I think that was his intentions. But I mean, UNC, he returned to North Carolina for their junior day this past weekend, made a bunch of visits during the summer, visited during the season. So, I mean, obviously North Carolina is firmly entrenched in this recruitment also, but, he's a high profile kid. Clemson offered him and thinks very highly of him. So it's going to be a battle.
Where's Harrisburg, North Carolina?
It's just outside of Charlotte. It's basically Charlotte. Okay. The university area of Charlotte, basically.
Great. All right. Christian Hamilton. All right. Moving right along. AJ Harris, a cornerback from Alabama, 6'1", 185, ranked number 18 in the nation, number 3 cornerback, making him a 24/7 Sports 5-star. Now, wasn't there a cornerback that was going to commit somewhere around New Year's?
Yes. So that was him.
Okay. That's him. He's visited.
Yeah. So yeah, he visited for a game, and he had a top 6 at one point, which included North Carolina. It was UNC, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, LSU. Kind of like heading up to his announcement, he decided to kind of just take a step back and just hit pause completely. And I think the most recent article I read, he says he doesn't even have any favorites, and it's just kind of go through the process. A lot of it has to do with all the turnover with all the coaches that were recruiting him, and he's trying to feel things through. I know that there's been a lot of buzz with North Carolina with him. I think that, all the other schools are recruiting him. He's visited multiple times. He's only visited North Carolina once. Before I can jump on any sort of wagon, I need to see him visit at least one more time. But UNC's in here, and if UNC were to land AJ Harris, the prime reason would be Dre Bly. He's established a great relationship with Harris and his father, and obviously Dre's resume speaks volumes to AJ.
All right. Good stuff. That'd be a huge get for UNC. All right. Jamal Jarrett, defensive lineman, 6'5", 330 from Grimsley High School in Greensboro, North Carolina. Three-star guy, 369 in the nation, number 25, offensive tackle. So I think he plays a little bit of both O-line and D-line. What's going on with Jamal Jarrett? Looks like he has a bunch of good offers.
Yeah, he's mostly exclusively played defensive tackle for Grimsley. And we're all still trying to figure out, is he an offensive guy, defensive guy? Even the coaches at Grimsley aren't 100% sure. But anyway, he's a kid. North Carolina was his first offer. And I think that holds a special spot in his mind when it comes to looking at schools. He's visited North Carolina a ton, but he's also kind of starting to expand out with his visits. But I think really, UNC is a prominent figure in this recruitment.
Okay, good stuff. Jamal Jarrett, local kid, around down the road in Greensboro. All right, Paul Mubinga, offensive tackle, 6'4", 280 out of Beaufort, Georgia, unranked in the composite. Paul Mubinga.
Yes. So just ran a story on Mubinga on Wednesday.
Okay.
So definitely check that out. He's a kid who his recruitment didn't really get going until the end of last season. Plays for a Georgia powerhouse, Beaufort High School. You follow UNC recruiting, Beaufort High School. UNC has recruited a lot of prospects out of Beaufort, has landed a lot of prospects out of Beaufort. He is not familiar with any of those guys, just other than Jake Pope that UNC recruited and did not land, because he just moved to the area midway through his 7th grade. So and UNC's been recruiting that school for 15 years or so. But anyway, so his recruitment is just getting started. He's a kid who really focuses on academics. So that's why, even though he has a gazillion offers, North Carolina and Wake Forest seem to be the two schools that have positioned themselves prominently in this recruitment. But we're just getting started with his recruitment. So I think he'll have a better grasp of where things might go towards the latter parts of the spring.
Okay. Paul Mubinga. All right. We're halfway there, Don. How are you feeling? I'm
feeling good. Timing wise, we're doing good. You should be proud of me.
Yeah, I think you're giving good little tidbits. And we're getting a good idea of UNC's targets. What are you looking at right
now? My daughter just texts me all the time.
What'd she text you? How'd she text you at school?
They're allowed to have phones. It's not like a big deal. And what's weird is so her science class, if you put your phone up on the cart when you get in, you get this bonus ticket thing that you can use towards extra credit or whatever.
How's her basketball season going?
The team, not good. They've only won one game, but she plays most of the games and does well in them. So, that's all we can ask for.
Ask for some wins. All right, moving on. Tamarion Parker from the same school as AJ Harris, right? That's it, right? Yeah.
Wait, say it again.
Tamarion Parker.
No, they're same
city.
Yes.
Phoenix City, Alabama. Sorry. Defensive line, 6'4", 255, 4-star, number 89 in the country, number 14 defensive lineman.
Yeah, so here's a kid that he was supposed to attend the junior day this past weekend, and I was told that those plans were canceled. Something came up family-wise, had nothing to do with his interest level in North Carolina. But it was curious to me because one of the reasons why UNC was actually in a good position with this kid and he was able to score a pair of visits from him, one during the summer and then again for a football game, was because of his relationship with Jay Bateman. And as we all know, Jay Bateman is no longer at North Carolina. The fact that this kid's in Alabama doesn't help the situation. And then also schools like Georgia and Alabama and Auburn and some others have made him a priority. So, a situation that looked really promising early on might not, well, I'm going to say doesn't look as promising right now.
There you go. Marvin Parker. Okay. Good little insight there. All right, moving right along. Chris Peel, cornerback, 6 foot, 175 from Providence Day School in Charlotte, not ranked.
Yeah, he's another kid that had a great relationship with Jay Bateman. I think obviously a Charlotte kid should be a lot easier for UNC to reset itself with. He visited during the season, intends on visiting in the spring, hasn't set anything up yet. He hasn't taken a ton of visits during in January. I think he made it to NC State and maybe one other place. He's a kid, great, a legit track speed, plays all over the place for Charlotte Christian. They won the state championship in their classification in the private league. And he was a big part of that, not just as a cornerback, which is what he's being recruited for, but also as a running back, which kind of speaks to just his overall athleticism.
Okay, great. Chris Peel. Moving right along. This is a name that a lot of people will know. Noah Rogers, wide receiver, 6'1", 180 from Rollsville, North Carolina. I think that's outside Raleigh.
Yeah.
Yep. Number 55 in the nation, number 9 wide receiver, a 4-star composite prospect.
Yeah. So this is a guy that, some have him as a top player of the state. And I mean, I don't think you can't really make an argument. I can't make an argument against that, although I think that, I like Keith Sampson, who's not on this list. But big play receiver, big kid, jump ball guy, stretch the defense guy, that sort of thing. The problem North Carolina has with him is, one, his profile has risen. He's picked up offers from, Ohio State, Clemson really wants him, a bunch of other schools. And then also his best friend is Lex Thomas, who in Lex's 2 brothers play at NC State. Lex is committed to NC State. Lex is a quarterback. And because of that connection, and because Lex makes a lot of visits to NC State, Noah Rogers has made a lot of visits to NC State. So even though Lonnie Galloway and UNC have done an unbelievable job recruiting Noah Rogers and getting him to campus and all of that, it's just going to be difficult for them to overcome his comfort level and familiarity with NC State's campus and its team and its coaching staff.
Same high school as Lex Thomas?
No, they actually different high schools. Lex goes to Heritage in Wake Forest, which is the next town over.
Yeah.
But they grew up together, play Pop Warner together. They both play for the Carolina Stars. And even though Carolina Stars are based in Charlotte, they both together make that trip to practices together. Gotcha. So spend a lot of time together.
All right. Next up, Tony Rojas, linebacker, 6'3", 200 pounds from Fairfax, Virginia, ranked 426 in the nation, number 34 linebacker.
Yeah. So he's a kid who UNC offered, UNC offered in October and probably weren't on his radar too much. But then he goes to the first junior day of the cycle, which is earlier in January. And UNC made a pretty good first impression on him. He's considering coming back. The problem is that schools like Virginia Tech, Maryland, Penn State have made him a priority. Penn State in particular, who's doing really well in the state of Virginia in this cycle, is definitely going to be a formidable foe for anyone who wants to land Rojas. But UNC is definitely in this and could definitely score a second visit.
Okay. Tony Rojas. All right, next up, we have Joel Starlings as his profile loads. Defensive lineman, 6'5", 310 from Benedict High School in Richmond, Virginia. 4-star prospect, 216 in the nation, 34 defensive lineman.
Yeah, so this is a kid where UNC had shown interest, had him come in for I believe it was the Carolina Cookout, but hadn't offered until Gene Chizik became defensive coordinator. And I think a lot of that is because Chizik's going to want more defensive tackles than what Bateman wanted. So he was supposed to visit this past weekend, but did not. It was kind of a last minute thing. He had already committed to visiting Virginia on Saturday. So he was going to try to make it to UNC on Sunday. That did not happen. And so I would imagine, I haven't spoken to him yet, but I would imagine that sometime after the February dead period, he'll be on North Carolina's campus to meet its new defensive coaches.
Okay, great. All right, next up.
I probably should mention he was committed to Michigan for a bit there, but obviously opened it back up, and a bunch of schools are in play with him.
It looks like Michigan's getting a new coach.
Yeah,
or
how crazy
they're losing Harbaugh.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate your take there. All right, Grant.
I didn't think you wanted me to comment on Harbaugh.
That's all right.
I don't understand. I feel like Harbaugh has great job security at Michigan, as we've seen, because he had some down years and they stuck with them. Why would you want to go to the NFL and be fired after 2 seasons?
Yeah, but he'll always have a job.
Oh yeah, I mean money wise he's set, but I mean, I don't know.
All right, next up, Grant Tucker, wide receiver, 6'3", 185 from Charlotte Christian in Charlotte, North Carolina. 4-star guy, 252 in the nation, 23 ranked linebacker. So linebacker or wide receiver, Dom?
So this is a kid. He's a tall, long, skinny athlete.
Okay.
Good player. Plays wide receiver and safety for the Carolina Stars, which is the 7-on-7 team I spoke about earlier. And so everyone's kind of trying to figure out, okay, how's this guy going to develop? How's his body going to develop? He visited North Carolina this past weekend for the junior day, where he was told that Coach Chizik kind of sees him as more of a nickel guy, which I think is a good spot for him, because I think that, I think he's a defensive player. I don't think he's a receiver. And I think that you want to take advantage of his physicality and also his pass coverage ability, his ranginess. And I think the nickel position does that, especially with what Chizik has been known to do.
Okay. UNC in a good position for him?
Yeah, I think North Carolina's a good position. They've got him on campus a bunch of different times. He's visited other schools, but I think North Carolina was the only school he visited in January.
Okay. The next 3 are going to be a little hard to pronounce. Samaj Turner.
Samaj, yep.
Samaj, yeah, that's what I said. You corrected me by saying the same thing.
I was confirming to you.
All right, getting loose here.
I was validating you.
There you go. I need it all. Defensive lineman, 6'2", 235 from Pfafftown, North Carolina, Reagan High School.
Pfafftown. I'm surprised you don't know that, because I guess I guess Greensboro's not that close to Pfafftown.
Is that Charlotte?
No, that's just north of Winston-Salem.
Oh, yeah. Deanna King's from down there.
I think Deanna King's even further.
Yeah.
Further, I guess west, north. She's from Starmount.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Samaj Turner.
Okay. Or Starmount's the high school. I can't remember what the town is. You might know though. So Samaj, another guy who wasn't offered until after Gene Chizik became defensive coordinator, defensive lineman. So it kind of fits into the idea of wanting to get some bigger bodies inside. We haven't done a whole lot on him. I will be definitely doing a lot more on him on the coming months, but he's a guy who's just started his recruitment, just started a little bit. He's taken some visits. UNC didn't offer him until, what was it, like a week ago. So he did camp at North Carolina last year. So Coach Tim Cross is definitely aware of him, has an idea of what he brings to the table. But I think we're going to see more of his recruitment start to unfold once the February dead period ends.
Okay, Samaj Turner. All right, next up, maybe the hardest one to pronounce, Shamrod Umrov.
So they call him Sham.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. But do you want to give the rest of his?
Yeah.
From Alpharetta, Georgia, Denmark High School.
6'6", 299, ranked a 4-star player, ranked 338 in the nation, number 20 offensive tackle.
His high school coach is Mike Palmieri, who was the first and longtime coach of Mallow Creek High School in Charlotte, which has produced tons of players, Marquise Williams, so on and so forth. Brian Walker ended up North Carolina, all those guys. Anyway. Yeah, so this is a kid who I believe didn't start playing football until recently. He's originally from Russia, but big body kid, just with natural athleticism. And during the, I guess it was in June, made a bunch of visits with some spring footage and ended up scoring a bunch of scholarship offers, including one from North Carolina. He started to pick up even more steam this past season. Plans on returning to UNC at some point in the spring. Completely wide open, a little naive to everything. Didn't follow college football, so he's not one of those ones that knows that Alabama's won a bunch of national championships, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But really good kid. Love talking to him, and it's going to be difficult because a lot of the SEC schools are recruiting him really hard. But he definitely likes North Carolina a lot.
All right, we got some breaking news here. You ready?
Sure.
From Carolina football. We're excited to announce that UNC and Coach Mack Brown have agreed on a 1-year extension, keeping the length of his contract at 5 years.
Woohoo!
Instant reaction.
My instant reaction, I mean, I kind of feel like Mack Brown's going to coach at North Carolina until he can't coach, right?
I don't know. Since his return to Carolina, Mack has done an outstanding job building a positive culture and energizing our fan base, Cunningham said, Bubba Cunningham. Under his leadership, we will continue to win both on the field and in the classroom, and we are all excited about the future of our football program. Sincere thanks to Mack and Sally for all their contributions to the Chapel Hill community. I want to thank the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Gustowitz, Bubba Cunningham, and the Athletics Department for their continued investment in our football program, Brown said. We've been able to accomplish a lot over the last 4 years on the field, in recruiting, and in the classroom. The program was able to navigate a difficult period during the pandemic and is in a healthy place currently. We're excited about where we're headed, and as we continue to receive strong support from the university, the future is bright for Carolina football.
What's your reaction? Because, I mean,
I don't think he's in coach. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes he's 70s. You got to step away. We'll see. I mean, he's got to win. He's got to win next year, man. I mean, he's on the.
You don't think no matter what happens, he's safe until he wants to leave?
I don't know.
That's what I kind of feel like.
Yeah, you get that. You think that, but dang, I mean, I think next year's going to be a weird year because they're going to have issues on new quarterback, offensive line. But I think the defense will be better, and they do have some playmakers, I think, on the skill positions. But the two most important positions, offensive line and quarterback, are where the question marks are.
Yeah. So you think if it's another not so great season, things could get a little bit heated on his seat?
Yeah, I mean, I think if they don't win, I think if they get to 7 wins, I think everything's good. But anything below that, 5, 6 wins, dicey Dave. All right, moving on. We have 2 more, Don.
We do, and we're making great time.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. All right, Desmond Zulu.
Okay.
I think we've talked about him already.
Yeah.
We talked about him a couple podcasts ago. Edge rusher, 6'6", 220 from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Ranked 307 in the nation, 26th ranked edge rusher, and a 24/7 Sports composite 4-star prospect.
So here's another guy who attended the first junior day and left very impressed. Told me afterwards that UNC was one of his favorite schools. Since then, though, he's picked up a lot of big offers, and I'm curious to see what sort of impact those offers will have, because the further you get away, the harder it is to kind of recruit guys, in generally speaking, and he's in Maryland, which obviously is within UNC's traditional recruiting footprint, but it's right there on the edge there. But obviously, he's a kid who values academics, and North Carolina is always going to have some sort of advantage with those type of kids. But I'm curious to see what kind of happens as far as the big schools recruiting him. I think Penn State is also another, this is another kid that Penn State is has a really good shot with.
Okay. Desmond Zulu. All right. And last but not least, and I know this guy's name, and most people that cover that follow our podcast should know his name. Rico Walker, edge rusher, 6'3", 233 from Hickory, North Carolina. 4-star guy, 161 in the nation, 14 ranked edge rusher, and the number 3 ranked player in the state of North Carolina.
So, yeah, this is a kid that North Carolina's been able to get to campus a bunch. This is a kid I've been talking about for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I saw him at a 7-on-7 camp or 7-on-7 tournament. It wasn't a very good tournament. So he stuck out like a sore thumb. But in a good way. I was like, immediately I saw him, and I mean, he's chiseled, tall, long, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he wants to be a tight end or receiver. But I mean, this kid, his talent is at the edge rusher position. He attended North Carolina's first junior day, among other visits he's made North Carolina, where he was told, and this is, I thought, was kind of interesting or revealing about Chizik's new defensive scheme, that UNC sees him more as an outside linebacker, which I thought was interesting, because I think he's an edge guy, but maybe there's some sort of hybrid sort of position that Chizik's thinking about. Who knows? But UNC's definitely in this. They've been able to draw him to campus a bunch. But his dad played at Auburn, so he definitely has some SEC blood in him. Definitely seems interested in the SEC, particularly Tennessee, where his dad's former recruiter and position coach is now coaching at. So
Who's that?
I don't know his name off the top of my head. I'd have to look.
Okay. All right.
I don't think I have it in my. No, I don't have it in my notes.
That wraps up our 20 names to know in the 2023 class. Don, look at the 20 names. Okay.
Okay.
How many do you think UNC lands?
Oh, we're gonna do this again. All right. So let's see. Let's go. Do you want to give me an over/under?
What do you mean? Just no.
All right, I will go with. Oh man,
I closed the doc. Let me pull it up again.
I mean, I'm going to go with let's say 7.
I
was actually leaning lower than that.
I was gonna say 10 over under 10, I guess.
Yeah, I would definitely go under 10.
Okay.
With this particular list.
There you have it, UNC football fans. I have a couple questions here. So I'm looking at the ranking of the North Carolina class, North Carolina 23 class, North Carolina rankings. So why is Keith Sampson? Is he just not realistic for UNC?
He is limited North Carolina. He came out with a top schools list that excluded North Carolina.
Jeez.
Also, Sam Pendleton yesterday came out with a guy who I think is definitely top 10 in state, maybe even top 5, borderline top 5 kid. He eliminated North Carolina yesterday also.
Is he in state? He's in state?
He's in state, yeah.
It's only showing 10 players or 14 players. Okay, what about like Dalen Smothers or Javante Vereen?
So UNC hasn't offered either one of those guys.
Okay.
For the running back position, UNC is focusing more on a speed guy, because if you look at what UNC has signed the past couple of classes with, Caleb Hood 2 classes ago, Omarion Hampton last class, Kamara Edmonds 2 classes ago, they've gotten a bunch of the bigger workhorse sort of backs, and they want more guys like George Pettaway. And so they've only offered one running back, and that was actually on Monday. And he's a speed guy, and that's probably the direction they're going to go. If you're looking at just depth-wise, scholarship depth-wise, UNC is actually pretty good at running back, but you don't want to ever go a class without signing one, just because it's a position so prone for injuries that you want to make sure you have too much depth. Definitely not be in a position where you don't have enough.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and finally, before we go into our listener-submitted questions, when you mentioned Maryland, what do you think about one Gunter Brewer leaving Louisville for Maryland?
Well, I mean, good for Gunter Brewer. I was surprised. I guess.
He
You know,
cares about what Don Callahan thinks.
we still talk, and but I bumped into him multiple times recruiting. He had the triad area, your area, and I saw him at a couple of schools during some of my touring, and so yeah, I mean, good for him. Go to Big Ten, lead the ACC. I've always thought he was a really good coach, unbelievable recruiter, tireless recruiter. Yeah. So Maryland, I think, is getting a good recruiter and good wide receivers coach.
There you go. What a take. Gunnar Brewer, friend of the program. Okay, let's go through our listener submitted answers and get out of here. All right, I'll read. So we asked y'all to submit the top 4. A lot of these names have been mentioned already, so we'll kind of breeze through these. I'll start off. Noah from Korea, Caleb Downs, maybe a pipe dream, but would be amazing knocking heads back there in a Chiswick defense. Noah Rogers, we mentioned about him, and he said 1 4-star defensive lineman or linebacker and 2 4-star offensive linemen.
All right, we got John from Lynchburg, home of 5-star UNC signee Zach Rice and Howard. Number 5 is AJ Harris, as we mentioned, 5-star cornerback. Shutdown corners are hard to find. Number 4, Caleb Downs, 5-star safety. Need Warren to steal from Georgia. Number 3, I don't know how to pronounce his first name.
You didn't have him on the list.
I didn't. UNC's offering. He's a South Carolina guy.
Montague Rams.
Rams. Okay, we'll go Montague. 4-star defensive lineman. Rip another from South Carolina. He's kind of what maybe he visits UNC, but I just see he's one is it's harder to see him come in North Carolina, which is what I was talking about earlier. The difference is Marquis Anderson has made 3-4 visits already. This kid hasn't even been on campus yet, although he's mentioned North Carolina a couple of times. Anyway, number 2, KJ Sampson. This must have been before KJ eliminated North Carolina. 4-star D lineman, keep control of North Carolina. Number 1, Rico Walker, 4-star defensive end, keep control of North Carolina.
All right, Matt from Charlotte, maybe a new submitter here. Rico Walker, Christian Hamilton, AJ Harris, highest offered offensive lineman, highest offered defensive lineman.
All right, our good friend of the show, Preston from Greensboro, cousin?
No, unrelated for sure.
Unrelated. Are you sure?
100%. You seen that guy?
We need DNA testing.
Yeah.
All right. So number 5, Noah Rogers, got to get the number 1 guy in the state. Number 4, Jamal Jarrett, big and talented, need as many quality big guys as we can get. Number 3, Rico Walker, always need pressure on the quarterback, Catawba County guy. Number 2, Chris Culliver, my favorite 23 guy, diverse and super athletic maiden guy. Number 1, a razor for Ross. We definitely need a razor for Ross.
All right. Todd and Carrie. He has just last names. Read through them here.
Sullivan, Absher.
Yeah, Sullivan Absher, continue to build the O-line. Legit chance with him.
Jamal
Jarrett, more bodies on the defensive line. Always smart move. Chris Peel, cornerback secondary is a big need for this class. Kid looks like he can be a lockdown corner. Christian Walker.
Rico.
Walker.
This is actually more fun.
Looks like a freak who can be a tear off the edge. You have to prioritize these guys. Christian Hamilton.
Yes, very good.
Okay. 3rd time's a charm. Wide receiver is another area where we need to continue to build. Tempted to say Rogers, but Hamilton seems more realistic. And bonus, he has Tucker and Culliver, unsure of the positions, but they seem like great athletes you always need to have.
All right. Dale, who always submits a list of top 5. He has number 5, Caleb Downs, another long shot, but with Josh's UNC experience plus a revitalized defense under Chiswick and Warren, would love to see Downs carry on his brother's legacy. Number 4, AJ Harris. If Bly is going to cement himself as an ace recruiter and teacher, needs to start convincing some big-time cornerbacks to come to UNC. Number 3, Noah Rogers. Feels like low probability at this time, but another national recruit in our backyard. Number 2, Monroe Freeman. With the struggles on offensive line this past season, need to add more high caliber players. Zach Rice was the start. Need Freeling to continue the trend. And number 1, Rico Walker, national recruit in our backyard. Have to win these battles to keep momentum. Walker definitely has a following within our listeners.
There you go. Brent from Gilbert. Arizona.
Yes.
No
Not Gert.
What? Yeah.
Not Gert.
No Rogers, Christian Hamilton as number 5. Top 2 players in the state. Take one or both. 4, Rico Walker. Need to find a pass rusher. Number 3, Jamal Jarrett, or a subsequent player of his size. Need a big body, eat up space in a 4-3 scheme. 2, Caleb Downs, top safety in the class. And AJ Harris, top 3 cornerback in the class. Potential immediate playing time if Tommy or Storm go pro. So you got 2 of the top defensive backs there as his 1 and 2.
All right. Yeah, a lot of Caleb Downs, AJ Harris, and then also Rico Walker.
Yeah.
No Rogers also. Anyway, all right. Drew from Lizard Lick, number 5. AJ Harris seems like a reach at this point, but would be a great pickup. Number 4, Rico Walker. The more talented D-line, the better. Number 3, Caleb Downs. Safety is a big need in my opinion. Number 2, Dalen Smothers. I don't know why UNC hasn't offered him. He's legit. And number 1, Christian Hamilton. Always needs speed at the wide receiver position. Rogers would be nice too.
All right. Have you been to Lizard Lick? It's an actual place.
I think I drive past it. Isn't it when you're driving 264?
Yeah, to Zebulon.
Yes.
87.
Right.
Yeah, to 64.
But I heard that TV show is completely fake.
Lizard Lick Towing?
I believe so.
Yeah, Lizard Lick Towing. I don't know if it's still going on. I mean, that was years ago. I watched that show.
But it was completely fake, right?
I don't know. Seemed real to me.
Would you call them up to?
It was always real to me, damn it.
Would you call them up to tow your car if you're stuck?
Sure. Yeah. All right. Good stuff, guys.
You like being on reality television?
I don't know. Never had the opportunity. All right, Don. Great show. Good job on your side. That was a lot of information. Hopefully, y'all got something out of this podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Commitment from
Spencer Rolland.
And a breakdown of the top targets and realistic targets and names to know in the 2023 class. Guys, rate, review, and subscribe to the Inside Carolina podcast. Watch and subscribe on YouTube. And, of course, check out Johnny T-shirt and johnnytshirt.com. Thanks, guys.